the motherfucking wormhole, homie. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. Yeah. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. Yeah.
What is up, y'all? It's your boy, Andy Savage, back with another episode of the Wormhole Podcast. Here with me is my homie, longtime friend. Give it up for Gino Lee.
How y'all doing today? Welcome to this side of the wormhole. Hope you had a safe trip.
I have had a safe trip. It's funny that you say that. Long time ago, in the Wormhole's history, I had a different intro where it wasn't the song, and it was a woman's voice doing a countdown. And the fun thing about all of the voices for the Wormhole, even all of the voices were my voice ran through filters. So the woman's voice was actually my voice.
Oh, that must have been trippy to hear yourself as a woman. You're like, that's weird.
Well, it sounds hella AI. So I was like, but the funny thing is that it was never AI. I just used a vocal filter, which is essentially AI, right? It's just that I didn't type in a prompt. I actually read it. The inflections in the voice were mine. It's just that I changed the tone. Same thing with the Area 420. If you ever seen that in the episodes, I know you don't hear it on your end, but it's like Area 420. But yeah, that was my voice doing with the effects and shit. So it's pretty fun, man. This podcasting thing has been a pretty fun adventure so far, and I'm glad I've been able to share it with you now. And now you have the passion/addiction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. There we go. Yeah.
I know you were talking a little bit about some of the things that you got planned out, but I mean, elaborate some more on some of that.
Oh, you mean for my podcast? Or...
Yeah. I wouldn't spill the beans on, save the name as a good reveal, but like the ideals of what you got going on.
Well, part of the main thing is trying to find stories and subjects that help stimulate the imagination, get everybody out of the humdrum of life. It may, even if it's just talking about works of actual fiction, or if it's some stuff that really happened or supposedly happened, it's something to stimulate the mind, the imagination, get you thinking outside of your little everyday box, because that's not where we're meant to be. We've mentioned it before. We're not meant to be sitting there going like fucking Eeyore throughout the day.
Right.
We're not supposed to be, oh, bother.
Yeah, it's difficult. The mundane is necessary, right? All the things that we do mundanely are necessary. You know, our drive to work, being at work, going into work mode in the brain, you know, because I feel like whereas I could be fully conversational with a coworker, a customer, whatever, what have you, I still feel like I'm slightly on autopilot because I'm not 1,000% authentic. I'm not 1,000% myself. I don't have a job where I feel like you can be 1,000% authentic. Like you have to mask a little bit. You have to put that society face on a little bit, and like just having to do that in general, that's not relaxing. That's taxing on your body. This kind of stuff, you know, thinking outside of the box, listening to these kinds of podcasts, none of these things make me tired. They don't make me like, oh, I've had enough of this. Like, oh no, if anything, I just crave more. It's a hunger.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Oh yeah. So it's stimulating. It's not, it's different from the mundane. It's better. It's better.
Yeah, it's one of the problems with doing the research for this stuff. You'll start doing some stuff here. You'll glance something over here. You're like, hey, what's that? And then next thing you know, you start off looking over here at, let's say, like, for example, today, the Skinwalkers. And the next thing you know, you're down some rabbit hole that's related to like the Mandela effect and resets. And you click something else and you're watching some weird ass video about animals dancing.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
And it's very difficult to navigate a lot of this crap with the AI slop that's clouding up the internet space right now. You know, when we're looking at things that are out there, you know, aliens, supernatural, cryptids, what have you. All of these things have been bullshitted by by AI now. People have made
You
fake,
almost had it right.
yeah, alien eye. Yeah, no shit.
Maybe they're the ones fucking doing it.
Remember in the 90s what they kind of made, not like cyberpunk, but like what they literally made like the Skynet world to look like. You know, when everything's a little bit more robotic, flying cars, humans are even worse than they are. The gangs are like Gotham City type shit. Like Gotham City had more tech technically, but it also had more third world fucking poverty.
Yeah.
So it's just like the class levels are much more evident because, you know, you're sensationalizing everything for content. But
yeah, it's like some of that stuff looked like a dystopian future.
right. And I really feel like that's what we're going to be leaning into with the advances of AI, because just thinking about if you were to put into your AI prompts for like a photo or an image you want done, and you just put in like futuristic, it looks very, very, very cybernetic and dystopian, you know?
Yeah.
Like it automatically knows what we're thinking the future is going to look like.
Yeah, although you know what, I'm kind of glad some of the old 80s and 90s future apocalyptic movies didn't happen, because I don't know if I'd like Mad Max. I don't think I'd like living in Mad Max.
I'd love it.
No. Well, have you seen the OG Mad Max movies?
Yeah. Those are some of my favorites with Mel Gibson. Oh, The Road Warrior.
Yeah, before he went nuts.
And Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Welcome to Thunderdome, bitch.
2-man enter, 1-man leaves.
2-man enter, 1-man leaves.
Dude, the 80s had the best movies for me. Like, I was just watching Bloodsport the other night. And, my God, man, it's such a good flick.
You know that movie was based off a real guy?
Oh, yeah, Frank Dukes.
Frank Dukes. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. That was one of Van Damme's early roles, and I think he had Chuck Norris to thank for getting that role.
Yep.
And Bolo.
You know who Bolo is? Yeah, he just passed away recently.
Oh, dude. Do you know that he was also in Enter the Dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in a bunch of shit.
I just recently was watching a video about Cynthia Rothrock.
Uh-huh.
She was a female martial artist. Everybody that worked with her, combat-wise, they actually essentially fought. It wasn't stage fighting she used.
Right. No, yeah.
She actually fought on camera.
Yeah.
So everybody had to deal with that shit. Man, that was some crazy stuff. And Bolo was one of those people.
Hey, Bolo, I swear, I was like, man, Bolo is the swollest Asian dude I've ever seen. He was, he had such a wide chest. Like, his chest game was crazy. But
I'd like to see him versus Sammo Hung.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good fight.
Fat versus.
That'd be a good fight, man. Good old Bloodsport, man. That's such a good movie. I'll fight for my right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And because of movies like that, every time we hear certain kinds of smooth jazz, we automatically assume that Van Damme's going to get some.
Yeah, right. That's porno movie shit.
Yeah, like now at work, I hear that sometimes. All of a sudden, I hear that music. I'm like, somewhere Van Damme's about to get some.
Yep. Not necessarily on the topic of Skinwalkers, so let's try to bring it back in. Now, I don't really know much about Skinwalker Ranch. This is one of the few wormhole, and neither of us do. This was kind of like a requested / there was some people that were showing some interest in it, and we haven't had a whole lot of time to research it. And so we just kind of wanted to research it together with the audience, with our listeners, with our viewers. And we have a little bit of a film that we're gonna go through and do some commentary on. So without further ado, I want to go off on the tales from Skinwalker Ranch.
Right.
It has been said that Utah, particularly northern Utah and the Uinta Basin, is one of the most active paranormal and supernatural hotspots on the planet. Everything from unidentified lights in the sky to weird...
1 second, y'all. Who would I be? How could I be Andy Savage if I didn't give us a pause for a motherfucking
Area 420.
Area 420.
for the homies? Whoop whoop.
And that's not the sound of the police.
Now, where were we?
humanoid figures and even Bigfoot have been spotted in the region. It has a long history of high strangeness, accounts which date back to the earliest of human settlements. 3 out of every 4 people in this part of the state have experienced something out of the ordinary, and for many others just passing through, there is a palpable feeling that those dusty roads and bleak landscapes hide something of a dark secret. Much of the strange activity is concentrated in and around the basin, but some believe that within that radius there is an epicenter, from which all these bizarre phenomena seem to manifest. A beautiful 480-acre ranch situated about 100 miles due east of Salt Lake City. As with any other acreage, it traditionally adopts the name of the current owner, but over time, it has come to be known by another. The Utes believed this ranch to be the focal point of a curse placed on them by the Navajo.
A curse?
Tribe members were, and still are, forbidden from setting foot on this land, as they believe it to be in the path of the Skinwalker. For this reason, it became known to the locals as Skinwalker Ranch.
Funny thing about Skinwalker Ranch, I know it has zero correlation, but when I was a kid, I always heard about Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah.
So, you know, because I was such a big Star Wars head, you know, Skywalker Ranch, fucking George Lucas's house. This was before that movie that came out. Wasn't there a movie where they like tried to go there? Fanboys or something like that, I think it was called.
It's possible.
But yeah, so when I heard Skinwalker Ranch, I never really associated the two together, but I've been hearing Skinwalker Ranch for 15 years. Yeah, and I've never really looked into it. I can't believe that. Sorry, that was no correlation, but Skywalker Ranch is cool as fuck.
Throughout the latter half of the 20th century, Skinwalker Ranch was owned by a family, which has long remained anonymous in this mysterious saga. For reasons unknown, they suddenly and inexplicably vacated the property in 1987, leaving it empty and unattended for more than 7 years.
Why did you do it, man? It was you.
That was until 1994, when it was purchased by Terry and Gwen Sherman. Along with their 2 children, the couple believed that they had found their dream home. The remote property was bordered to the north by a high ridge, which overlooked its sprawling green pastures, wild thickets of woodland, and its flowing creek to the south. The entire estate exuded an almost tranquil beauty that was not lost on the Sherman family. Terry was a high-end cattle breeder, and he hoped that the ranch would provide the space, privacy and security he needed to take what was not only his hobby, but his livelihood to the next level. He had bought the ranch for an extremely favourable price, far less than what it was worth, and when he signed the paperwork, he accepted the deeds with an excited, disbelieving look in his eyes. What he now held in the...
That is strangely familiar. It's very similar to the story of the Perrin family. And when they were purchasing their home, same exact thing. The whole family hopes and dreams moving far away into this new place. Why is that always? It's like, if life ain't fucking you, it ain't doing nothing for you. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like every single time these people, they're fucking rolling the dice on the last little fucking hope they got, and they're just getting fucked in the ass by life, you know? Let me just move into the most haunted fucking house in town, right? Let me just move into a fucking area that's just completely fucked with skinwalkers and aliens and all types of shit. I was just trying to retire. I'm just trying to find a place to hustle.
Hey, doesn't it seem like, you know how we talked about before? We're not a bit. Oh, we don't believe too much in coincidences. Doesn't that sound like they described a nice shiny lure to catch a fish?
Yeah, no shit, man. And then you know, I try not to go down the rabbit hole of like, is this shit a simulation, man? Because I'd like to believe that every person I encounter, every listener, every viewer, every friend I've ever had, I'd really like to believe y'all are real. And you're not just fucking elements of the simulation, and I'm just like some fucking test tube somewhere like in the Matrix, and I just got the fucking tubes in me and they're just feeding off my fucking semen and whatever else in my body, my adrenochrome. I hope not, man.
Like that one, what's that one? One of the Saints Row games where you were your character was inserted in a simulation because everybody was prisoners of aliens.
Oh yeah, that's the 4, right?
Yeah, because you were the president at first.
Yeah, that one was crazy as fuck, man. The Saints Row games are crazy as hell. But back to the Skinwalkers.
The palm of his hand was his ambition, his prospects, his dream. He could not have known that the land he had just purchased would almost destroy him. Not just financially, but also psychologically.
Oh.
When they had first viewed the property, Terry and Gwen had found the main homestead in a state of disrepair, which of course they had anticipated, given the length of time it had stood empty. What they did not expect to find, however, was the sheer amount of deadbolts securing the home, not just on the front and back doors, but on interior doors and all of the windows too. At the front and rear entrances, they also found heavy-duty chains attached to huge metal rungs, which were embedded into the walls. It didn't take a genius to work out that these had been used to chain large, powerful guard dogs in place. Although slightly unsettled by these peculiarities, Terry and Gwen dismissed them, believing that the elderly couple who owned the ranch before them had been paranoid and overprotective. They had seemed rather eccentric after all. In the real estate contract, they had inserted a number of unusual clauses. For instance, the Shermans were not permitted to dig on the land without prior approval from the previous owners. These irregularities were overlooked by the family, but somewhere in the back of Terry's mind, he could not help wondering what had spooked them to the point of installing this level of security. In time, of course, he would come to understand that this idyllic, stunning acreage was haunting in more ways than just its serene beauty. And in fact, the weirdness began almost straight away.
Jesus.
On the first day of moving in,
that in itself is kind of fucked up, right? Not only was the house in disarray and run down, but there's also deadbolts on every door of the house. So it's essentially I'm turning the home into a labyrinth of you can't get me, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God.
That's a whole lot of not today, buddy.
Man, but the worst thing, these poor sons of bitches sell their whole life and just it's just one last Hail Mary, you know, that like let's just fucking go for it, and then it's just this. Jeez.
in front of their new home, when they spotted something on the far side of the pasture to the south. As it closed the distance, they could see that it was a wolf, which was loping gracefully towards them in a series of S-turns.
El Lobo.
This immediately set Terry on guard, but it wasn't just the presence of the wolf that concerned him. Scaling it against distant fence posts and bushes, he could see that this animal was at least 3 times the size of an average wolf. But its behaviour was oddly disarming. It seemed nonchalant, friendly even, rather than aggressive, slowing down and then stopping about 50 yards away. It sniffed the air and gazed at the family with intelligent, piercing blue eyes before continuing on, casually padding towards them without a care in the world. It seemed entirely tame. It wagged its tail as it approached, and Terry's father, who had been helping unload the truck, bravely reached out to stroke the huge beast. Sherman Sr. stood over 6 feet tall, and even though he was a big man, its head easily came up to the top of his shoulder. It quickly became clear that despite the wolf's intimidating size and appearance, it meant no harm. The rest of the family relaxed and walked over to greet their strange visitor. Maybe it's somebody's pet, Terry ventured, glancing.
Wait. Well, first off, maybe it's somebody's pet, and there's a wolf that's 3 times the size of a normal wolf. But first off, like, bro just was petting it, and like, okay, if it's a Skinwalker, right, that means that's a human. So you're just all rubbing up on some dude.
It's like, what's that, Wormtail in Harry Potter?
I know, Grandpa's got him some. He's got him a little piece.
Nervously at the corral about 70 feet to his left, and wondering if it had been wise to move some of his herd onto the ranch so soon. Inside of the pen stood 4 of his breeding cows and as many calves. They were all clearly troubled by the wolf's presence.
Yeah, no shit.
Except for one curious youngster, which was sticking its head out between the metal bars, watching the scene unfold. Almost as soon as Terry had realised the danger, the wolf had bounded across the short distance and now had its huge jaws clamped around the calf's head. The young cow bleated and thrashed wildly as the wolf tried to drag it out of the pen. Terry grabbed an axe handle from the back of his truck and rushed over, beating the huge animal's flanks and kicking at its hind legs, but the wolf paid no attention and refused to let go. "Get my magnum," he shouted. His son ran across to the truck, grabbed a .357 from the cabin and handed it to his father. Terry quickly fired a shot at the wolf's abdomen, which rang out across the empty pasture, but it had no effect. The huge animal did not react in any way. It did not stagger or yelp. It did not even flinch. It simply continued to ravage the poor calf. In his desperation, Terry fired again. Still, the gun had no effect. After a third shot, however, the wolf slowly released its grip and backed off about 10 feet. The rancher could not believe his eyes. Very few animals could have survived 3 shots from a .357 Magnum at point-blank range, but this wolf was somehow not even wounded. There was no blood anywhere on its coat.
You miss?
Finally, he took a 4th shot, right at the animal's heart, and it retreated another 30 feet. There was something incredibly unnerving about the way it just stood there with an unconcerned look, contemplating whether to attack the calf a second time. Terry sensed this and shouted at his son to get his .30-06 rifle from the house, which he did within a matter of seconds. The wolf remained perfectly still as he took aim with the heavier firearm, and he almost felt sorry for the poor beast. A deafening shot echoed across the wilderness as he pulled the trigger, and in that moment he knew he'd hit his target. But instead of collapsing to the ground in a heap as it should have done, the wolf simply withdrew another 2 yards and stood looking at an increasingly unsettled Terry. He quickly took another shot, and this time he saw a chunk of flesh detached from the animal, but even this did not put it down. The wolf took a last unhurried look at the calf, then turned and trotted back in the direction it came from. Terry was dumbfounded. He knew he could not allow a large predator to remain on his land if he intended to breed cattle, so he called to his teenage son, and the 2 of them proceeded to go after it. They must have followed the wolf for about half an hour, catching glimpses of it as it ran to the south between patches of cottonwoods and other trees. The tracks led them through a copse of Russian olives, the other side of which was the creek, and emerging from the trees, they found themselves on a wide open mud bank. They could clearly see the wolf's paw prints and immediately began to follow them, but the tracks abruptly stopped about 40 yards from the water's edge. Terry and his son could not believe their eyes. They were standing in a wide open expanse of sodden mud, yet the paw prints ended right in the middle of the bank. The wolf would have had to have leapt an impossible 40 or 50 yards in either direction to avoid leaving any more tracks. It had seemingly vanished into thin air. Returning.
Fuck that.
So, I mean, I guess it could have been like a spirit, but how would he have seen that the piece detached from the animal?
Yeah, you know? That's some crazy shit. Oh, there it is right there.
On the bulletproof wolf?
Yeah.
It's very strange. Is it an apparition? Is it... I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to thinking that, you know, there's spirits of the forest. You know, the natives will talk about that, you know, different spirits of the land and things like that. It very well could be the spirit of the land. But,
Yeah, like they depict in that old anime movie, Princess Mononoke.
yeah, Princess Mononoke. Yep.
Yeah, those big spirit beasts. I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be either.
To the homestead, Terry happened to pick up the piece of flesh that had detached from the animal.
Oh, wow.
He noted that, rather than being fresh and covered in blood, it looked and smelled rotten, as though it had been left out in the sun for a few days. In quiet contemplation, he turned his head south and looked out over the pasture towards the horizon, wondering what on earth had just happened. That was the first day. The next few weeks were relatively normal, except for a few strange occurrences which happened around the homestead, all targeted towards Gwen. She didn't report any of these things to her husband at first, as she genuinely thought she was losing her mind. For instance, she would come home from shopping, unpack the groceries and put them away, and then leave the room to attend to something else. Moments later, she would return to the kitchen and find the groceries all back in the bags, as if she had never unpacked them.
Oh, son of a bitch.
In other occurrences, she would go to have her customary morning shower. Locking the door behind her, she would place her towel and hairbrush on the side. When she finished, she would step out of the shower only to find her towel and hairbrush missing. They would disappear. A few hours later, she would find them in some random location elsewhere in the house. Things continued like this for some time, and Gwen was getting increasingly worried about her memory.
It's seeming like they are doing things that are a bit more increasingly annoying. And in Hispanic culture, they have like a little elf called a little elf/gnome thing called a duende. And duendes do fucking increasingly annoying things to you. You know, they'll take and move your fucking keys and your wallet. And move it to places you're like, what the fuck? I would never put my stuff here. Like, I know I put my stuff in the same spot every day. Like, no, you know, just little things. And they'll say, oh, it was the duende.
Memory. That was until Terry came in one evening, demanding to know who had taken his post digger.
Huh?
He had been using it to repair a fence in the pasture and had turned away for a few moments. When he turned back, it had gone. Gwen explained that she and the children had been in the house all evening and proceeded to help him search for it. However, it was nowhere to be seen. A few weeks later, it was found hanging in a tree on the other side of the ranch, 70 feet off the ground, which was odd considering that this piece of equipment weighed over 70 pounds. By this time, the Shermans were beginning to suspect that something was not quite right about the property they had bought. About a week before they rediscovered the post digger, a nephew came to stay with them, and Terry decided to take the youngster on a tour of the ranch. His son also accompanied them, and it was well after sunset when they decided to return to the homestead. A few hundred yards ahead, Terry noticed a set of headlights moving along a distant fence line, well within the boundaries of his property. He had seen these lights before, and had assumed that someone had taken a wrong turn off the road to the east, but now, seeing them again, he suspected that these people, whoever they were hunting on his land without permission. He decided that he would confront them, and immediately began marching in their direction. But as he picked up the pace, the lights began to move away from him. His brisk walk turned into a jog, and as the boys followed suit, he began to wonder why there was no engine sound. They had gotten to within 100 yards, when the lights suddenly lifted off the ground and floated up over some distant treetops. Terry and the boys stopped dead in their tracks, shocked by what they were seeing. The lights silently continued on their course before disappearing out of sight. During the autumn, these lights became a frequent occurrence, especially as Terry began transporting his prize Simmental and Angus cattle onto the ranch. The activity seemed to escalate with the arrival of his high-end livestock, and this is when things started to turn serious. As the winter months rolled in, severe snowstorms battered the region, and Terry found himself out at all hours, rounding up cattle that had wandered too far astray. One late evening, he was out on horseback, searching for one of his prize Angus cows that had been missing for almost 24 hours.
Oh, that
He
Angus.
had covered the whole ranch, except for a dense area of woodland to the southwest, which he was now heading towards. As he approached the large outcropping of trees, he was relieved to see the unmistakable impressions of hoof prints in the deep snow, and he now knew that it was only a matter of time before he located the animal. He paused briefly as he considered the tracks. From the spacing, he determined that she had been running at full tilt as she had entered the tree line. This was odd behaviour for a cow, especially during a snowstorm, unless she had been running from something. But what? Although it was unlikely for a predator to be hunting during this weather, it wasn't impossible, but he could see only one set of tracks. He followed the hoof prints for 20 yards into the trees and soon reached a wide clearing. The tracks continued out into the middle of the open space, and then stopped dead.
Again.
The cow was nowhere to be seen. A cold chill ran down his spine as he recalled how the wolf's tracks had stopped in a similar fashion, as if the animal had disappeared or had been sucked up into the air. He searched for a while longer, but began to lose hope. In the end, he turned back towards the homestead with a heavy heart. The only thing Terry loved more than his cattle was his family, and to lose a single cow or bull was not only financially devastating, it was also heartbreaking. He had a profound sense of pride in the breeding and rearing of each of his animals. Over the course of the winter, 4 more of his prized cows and bulls would disappear in a similar fashion.
Fuck.
Terry began to spend many nights outdoors, sticking to the shadows and creeping around his property like a spectre, trying to get the drop on who was taking his cattle. Unfortunately for him, whoever or whatever it was always seemed to be 2 steps ahead. The lights seen on his land were now commonplace, but he could only ever view them from a distance, never up close. No matter how silently he tried to creep towards them, they would simply move away as if they knew he was there. But then, in the early hours of one morning, after yet another fruitless night, he was making his way back towards the homestead, when a movement in the periphery of his vision suddenly caught his attention. To his utter shock, he saw a black mass hovering over the ground about 100 yards to his left, silhouetted against the pale white snow. Immediately he hunkered down and quietly observed the strange object as it moved across the land. To his eyes, it looked like a slightly smaller, snub-nosed version of the F-117 Nighthawk. However, he knew that it couldn't have been an F-117, because this thing was completely quiet, floating about 20 feet off the ground as if defying gravity. Coloured light shone from its hull, flitting over the snow as if it was searching for something. Terry was able to observe it for around 15 minutes as it made its way over to the west before turning back and heading east again. Sitting still in the cold, Terry's arms were beginning to go numb, and as he stretched his limbs, his joints cracked. In the deathly silence, the sound seemed impossibly loud, but in reality, it was so insignificant that it wouldn't have been heard by anyone standing beyond a distance of 6 feet. Nevertheless, the lights on the strange craft suddenly went out. It then stopped and turned in his direction.
I would have shit.
For a few tense moments, Terry's heart thumped in his chest as the object seemed to glare at him.
Shit.
But to his relief, it turned and silently floated off to the north out of sight. In the new year, as the spring rains began to lash the ranch, The family would lose even more cattle, but now they began to reappear, sometimes dead from no apparent cause, other times extensively mutilated. The nature of these mutilations was bizarre. Huge chunks of flesh and skin were carved out of the animals, yet there was no blood. The wounds always seemed to be cut with precision instruments, displaying an almost surgical quality rather than the savage tearing of predators. The Shermans were beginning to feel the stress caused by these losses. Throughout 1995, the strange activity only intensified. Events took place that were frankly beyond bizarre. The lights appeared over the ranch almost every night. More poltergeist activity was experienced in the homestead. Black, featureless entities began to appear, looking in through the windows and later even entering the house and standing at the ends of beds. Strange sounds would emanate from the ground, almost as if there was machinery or railroads operating beneath their feet. Their neighbours would hear this too. They also heard disembodied voices speaking in strange languages coming from the sky. One morning, Terry woke to find huge, cookie-cutter-like holes dug into his land, with no resulting piles of earth anywhere to be seen. Somehow, hundreds of pounds of soil had silently been removed from his property in the dead of night. In addition to this, strange creatures were spotted walking across the land, from humanoids that resembled Bigfoot to bizarre canine hyena hybrids with razor-sharp claws that would attack their livestock. There was an invisible entity that was often witnessed, not the being itself, but the effects of its presence. Livestock would part and move out of the way as if something big and unseen ran through the middle of the herd. Water in the canal would be displaced, as if large invisible feet were stomping through it. Another, smaller creature was witnessed that seemed to be shrouded in some sort of cloaking device, much like the alien entity from the movie Predator. Stationary orange lights were seen in the sky, which were different to the other ones Terry often witnessed moving in the distance. The first time he saw one of these anomalies, he was sitting out on his porch on a warm summer evening, when something suddenly appeared in the sky about a mile away from his position. He had been cleaning his rifle earlier on in the day, and a high-powered scope just happened to be nearby. He grabbed it and proceeded to view the object through the telescopic sight, and what he saw left him sitting there, mouth agape. The orange object looked like some sort of portal, and at its centre he could see an opening. On the other side of that opening was a blue sky, even though the sun had long since set. In his mind, it looked like a gateway to another place. These anomalies became a frequent occurrence above the ranch, and Terry would later describe seeing odd-shaped craft entering and exiting these openings on several other occasions. The most disturbing of all phenomena, though, were the orbs. They were not as common as the lights or portals, but when they did appear, they were far more obvious, zipping in and out of nearby trees and harassing the livestock. These were mostly about the size of a tennis ball and had a blood-red colour, but every so often, larger, blue ones would show up, and these were bad news. Nicknamed the Blue Meanies, these orbs were somehow able to instill intense fear in those who got too close to them. Perhaps it was a certain vibration or signal they gave off, which stimulated extreme anxiety. Terry and Gwen were never sure, but they feared the blue orbs more than anything else they had seen on the ranch. One evening, Terry was out on his porch again, observing the lights over his property as he often did, when he spotted an ominous blue glow coming from the tree line in front of his house. He was immediately on guard, as one of the blue orbs emerged from the thicket and slowly made its way towards him. 3 of his best hunting dogs sat by his side, and the moment they saw the orb, they began to growl and bark. Without even thinking about it, Terry set them loose, and they proceeded to chase it back into the trees. Whatever fear it was able to stimulate in human beings did not seem to affect dogs, and Terry felt his spirits lift as he considered that a small battle had been won. But then, suddenly, out of the darkness, came 3 pained yelps, and then, nothing. He waited for a couple of hours, but his dogs never returned. He was far too scared to venture out and look for them, but in the morning, he and his son went to search the copse of trees where he had last seen them. On the ground, they found 3 quarterized piles of flesh, smouldering in the cool morning air. This was all that was left of his dogs. This proved to be the last straw for the Sherman family. They had endured much more than they could physically take over the last 2 years. They were not getting any sleep. The kids were doing poorly at school. Gwen had lost her job at a bank in town, and the whole family had taken to bunking in the same room because of the strange phenomena that was now regularly entering their household during the night. On top of this, they had lost 14 head of cattle, along with family pets, and they were now on the verge of bankruptcy. Seeing those vaporized dogs, it was now becoming clear just how much danger they were in. Terry had previously contacted a local newspaper about the strange activity taking place on his ranch, and although roundly ridiculed, the story was picked up by other publications. By chance, it caught the attention of one Robert T. Bigelow, a billionaire businessman who had recently invested a significant amount of money in setting up a scientific team whose purpose was to investigate events of high strangeness.
Bigelow.
He offered to purchase the ranch from the Shermans, who were only too happy to accept, and by July 1996, Terry and his family had vacated the property. Bigelow's team, the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS, were ready to move in by September that same year, and would in fact remain at the ranch for nearly a decade, studying in detail various instances of bizarre phenomena. They would have their own stories to tell. What they encountered there was every bit as intriguing and downright terrifying as what the family had experienced.
Good.
For the time being at least, whatever had been tormenting the Shermans over the last 2 years was about to receive some unwelcome attention. It was about to come face to face with a fearless, highly equipped and well-funded team of investigators who were well aware of its presence. The hunter was about to become the hunted.
That's pretty cool that they had the similar experiences, because it's just like when you take your car to the mechanic and you're like, oh hey, my shit's been making this sound, makes it every motherfucking day, right? And then their mechanics listen for it and it's like, I didn't hear nothing, and you're like, son of a, like, I just need somebody to believe me, I'm not making this up, you know. And so it always makes me happy when they have the actual investigation team go and they not just see a little bit, they see a lot.
Yeah. To be continued.
And that was
Least
it, Joe.
favorite. The least favorite words of anybody who's ever watched anything. If y'all viewers are wondering what I'm doing, I'm not playing with myself. I'm moving around. I've got this down here.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm over here fidgeting, moving it around because it's keeping me from smoking more because this shit. No, that's a no. First day that shit happened, I'd pack everything back up. Realtor would be called. No.
Yeah, I don't know how these folks do it when they're like, oh, for the next 2 years, this family was tormented.
Oh, hell no.
I don't think I'd do more than 2 days.
I'd maybe take the time to, do some investigating, like set some stuff up to get some evidence and prove that some shit was happening, and then gone. It'd be like those cartoons where you see the smoke in the shape of a person afterwards. That would be me.
I've been homeless, right? So I would choose homelessness over living in a haunted fucking house. The only thing would be I'd have to explain it to work. I'd be like, well, I'm homeless now, so please help accommodate that. If not, I understand, I get it, I stink, all that, but my house got taken over by ghosts. What the fuck am I supposed to do? It wasn't covered on the insurance. So I live in a tent in the woods by the house. They seem to leave the tent alone.
Yeah, it'd be like, look, it's like the Skinwalker Ranch in this place, and they'd probably be like, oh, okay.
It's as ridiculous as it sounds to us for somebody to give up their living space so ridiculously. you'd be surprised how many people do that for like pets. Where it's like, oh yeah, well they just kind of took over that couch, so that's theirs now. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
been couch shopping recently. A couch is a solid $800. You know, you're just saying like, ah, whatever, it's the dog's now. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
No.
oh, absolutely fucking not. You know, that's the poor man in me comes out as far as that goes. Oh, this is
It's like
my motherfucking house. You will
it's
sleep.
like move the fuck over.
Get your motherfucking ass off this couch. Why are you talking to the dog like that? Because he's in my spot and he won't move. I gotta tell him who's boss. It's lucky I don't bite his ass.
I take it you've had that conversation before.
No, I don't have a dog anymore. I miss having the dog, man. We had a Chihuahua for about 6 years. No, about 5 years. Me and my wife were married for 6.5 years. Well, we were together for 6.5 years. We were married for 4. Before we, hold on a second.
Yeah. I heard that.
It was the front door. I heard some.
Oh yeah, I heard that too.
Scared me.
Yeah, don't look what we were just watching, what we've been talking about. It's again like what was that? Yeah, earlier today we were talking. All of a sudden, boom.
Yeah, I had a fucking picture fly off the wall and land and fucking hit the computer monitor and everything.
Every time we talk about the supernatural,
This
and
shit is
whatnot,
cursed,
shit happens.
bro. Or we're mediums and we're the channel for everyone to feel these new energies through.
Hey, as long as it doesn't interfere and make me miss my sleep, so I can't go to work. Need those dollars, man. Need those dollars. Unfortunately.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. But on this Skinwalker Ranch, I do want to get into some more on it. So I do want to make this into a multi-part series. I know we were running under some time constraints today. So we are going to be ending up shooting a shorter episode. But, we just like to get it out there. We've been discussing running into a 2-episode platform. If we start doing a 2-episode weekly platform, you will experience shorter episodes, but you will feel we're going to be researching the content more. We're going to be giving more facts, less opinion. Obviously, we're always going to do it in the elevated way that the wormhole do. But, we're going to be able to focus more time on finding topics, sticking to them, and keeping it in the world, in the frames that we want to have it in. Aliens, supernatural, cryptids, conspiracies to a point. I like conspiracies that aren't too political. I don't care about, assassination conspiracies and those kinds of things. I'm not a real big 9/11 conspiracist. I'm pretty sure it's an inside job, but I don't let that consume me and be anti-government one way or the other. I'm not a fence rider. I'm not political. I really just don't give a fuck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said
Call me uneducated, but I'm much more worried about aliens and UFOs and smoking pot and spending my money on just keeping a roof over my head and keeping my family happy while I'm able to obsess about this crap.
Yeah. Those are two of the most dangerous subjects: politics and religion.
Yeah, I will have the religion conversation with you all day long over politics.
Yeah, well, see, I've always experienced when I mention things like related to the existence of other theologies, because people get mad when I mention the word, when I mention a certain name and the word demigod, they get flip out. And it's like I bring up the Book of Enoch.
Oh yeah,
And
my favorite.
That when he talks about his experience above, essentially, looking out a fucking port window of a fucking spaceship, interacting with those three entities, calling themselves the Holy Trinity. That people get angry. Don't get angry. That is rare. That is, have a conversation, expand your horizons, even if that's not what you believe in. Listen.
Yep.
You never know. You're supposed to take look at it from the other person's perspective.
Yep. Yep.
Because you might see something or learn something about that person. Don't just be a dick and fucking.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, man. There's a lot of negativity out there. Back on that Book of Enoch thing. Funny, cool story about that. There was like, I want to say it was like a History Channel special, but my dad was watching it when I was like 11 years old. It was like the first time we ever had fucking cable, because my dad caught a deal on satellite. So for like a year we had satellite dish. And during that year though, my dad was watching this show, and I want to say it was late at night, probably like 10:30, 11. I was supposed to be sleeping, and I was watching it through the crack of my door. I'm just laying on my bedroom floor watching this in fascination, because it was all about the Dead Sea Scrolls and where they had the Book of Enoch and everything. And when they were just talking about everything from the Nephilim to the everything. There's so much in there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Book of Enoch. Very cool.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I have an intruder that's trying to come in.
At least it's a person. At least you didn't get invaded by Skinwalker entities.
Well, I didn't see the whole figure, so we'll see. Might be. They like to look like shit that you know, right?
Yeah.
Might be screwed. I'm thinking there's dinner at the other side of that door. I might be the dinner.
Wow, sir. Okay. No, but for anybody who's listening to this, paying attention, y'all want to look on your own time, look into more about the Skinwalker Ranch. There's a website that I found we found in our hunts, is skinwalkerranch.org. It's got all kinds of things. There's a listing of stories that look like list of stories that look like they come out of files. There's a fuck ton of them.
Yeah.
And there's like all sorts of information on there. You can even get views of the actual ranch on there. So I'm sure somebody that's listening to this will probably go there and take a gander. It's got curiosity is what we want to inspire, the curiosity into the unknown.
Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch is I'm not sure if it's open I don't think it's open to the public, because that's someone's home. Like that's owned property. But there's never I mean, I don't think I've ever seen any stories discrediting Skinwalker Ranch. Every single person that's went there, that studied this, has said, man, there's crazy shit. It's just because there's so much. Yeah. It is such a hot spot for alien activities, paranormal activities. This is obviously going to be a multi-part episode, like I said, so we're going to get into a lot more of the details of Skinwalker Ranch in the next episode. If not the next episode on this, we will get back into Skinwalker Ranch. We might decide to spice it up with something out of a multi-part series, because we're working on the Warrens still. We have Skinwalker Ranch, which will be multi-part. Just so much, because there's so much out there, man. That's the beautiful thing about a pod, is like, you know, we can have 1,000 episodes and we can only be at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this world.
Yeah, we could do an entire year just in the United States and still have it covered, all like 10% of the shit that's out there.
Depending on the state you live in, you might be able to do an entire year's worth of podcasts on a state.
So yeah, some of the places near where you live, There's a few places out near me. There's one across the border that seems to be crazy too. So, well, the Indiana-Kentucky border, not the Mexico border. I ain't got no passport.
Now you're in Indiana now, and that is where you were born also, but you spent a good significant time in Illinois, and some of our Illinois fans were requesting that we look into Gacy and doing a little true crime. So that's on, that's on the to-do list. I would say we could do that. I don't really get into his story too much because he was kind of a fucking weirdo, wasn't he? Wasn't Gacy wasn't he one of them pedos or something like that?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Either way, I think he killed kids. He was a clown. I know that. I don't know if he murdered kids or if he diddled. And if he did, what the fuck? Like, I kind of don't want to even research that if that's the case. So we'll see if I end up doing the story on it, because I have a 5-year-old kid. That's a touchy subject for a new dad. I'm disgusted by those kinds of people, man.
Yeah, I had to stop watching when my son was that age. I had to stop watching Law and Order SVU.
Yeah,
because my son's gym teacher became a suspect to me.
Oh, dude, it's just like it's like when you're arguing with somebody online and you just feel your fucking blood boiling, the rage. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like putting myself into that. Like, if I'm put into that position, right? If something ever happened to my kid, of course, what the fuck? I'm going to demolish this person. Like I could not allow it to just go to the law. Like, that's not enough. That's not enough. Because I've been in prison and I know how easy they let them have it. They protect them. They don't let people bully them. So, like, all these different stories you'll see on the news where they're like, this rapist got murdered in prison. Like, celebrate that shit, man, because that's so difficult to do, because a lot of states, they're fucking protected. And not only that, there was a dude in Wisconsin. He had it wasn't gruesome as far as violent, but gruesome as far as age and the activity. So that's fucking gruesome enough, no? Like, and all of that. And dude got like 3 years, man. And I know people that are just drug dealers that were getting 5, 6, 7 years. Doing burglaries, getting fucking 8 years because you had a pistol case before that. Like, how is this dude doing less time than you? Like, how is this justice? This is not fucking justice. I mean, I think it's tacky I'm sorry, but I think it's tacky when people put the fucking sticker on their car where it's like, kill your local pedophile. Like, that, there's a stigma behind that specific logo that's kind of like, But, I mean, I wouldn't fucking be a vigilante, but obviously, I think that there's a little bit of an emergency. So I will be cutting this episode short, y'all. I'm sorry. I think the family's going crazy in the other room. I'm hearing lots of yelling and screaming. So until next time, y'all, keep your motherfucking eyes to the skies. My boy Gino, appreciate you. And we will be getting very soon in this next episode, my brother.
All right. And thank you all for viewing and watching, for joining us on this end of the wormhole. Have a safe journey back through, and remember, stimulate your imagination.
Wormhole out, y'all. Peace.
It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. Yeah. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. Yeah. In the galactic shitheads from outer space, the wormhole pod taking over the human race. With the faces set to kill, we sliding up in your place. Take your credits in your bitch, then disintegrate your face. We assimilate as we roll through the breeze, tripping off the fungus, getting lifted from the trees, saying fuck the ops. Yeah, we killed them bitches with ease, doing drive-bys with Bigfoot sliding in UAPs. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. Yeah. yeah. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. It's the motherfucking wormhole, homie. Yeah.